when I have a conversation with women, it's not just going to be a conversation about women, for women. It is going to be a conversation that women will drive about what needs to change for the country, what women can do. So that is what we're attempting to do here with my fabulous panel this afternoon. So thank you very, very much, Sangeeta, Sindhu and Debjani, for joining us here this afternoon. Let's get the elephant out of the room first. And Sangeeta, let me start by talking to you about, the fact that we're still having a conversation about why it makes sense to have more women in the workforce, why it makes sense to bet on women, why it makes sense to prioritize the women's agenda as well. Let's get that out of the way before we talk about what India needs to do and get the women's perspective on that.
So, good afternoon and thank you, Shireen. Why it makes sense? I think the main question is, everybody knows it makes sense. Why are we taking so long to get it done? Yeah. So I think that's really the reality of the issue. But if you take the numbers, this is an economic channel. It is, a world. 483 million women in the working age group. Their contribution to GDP is about 18%. Are they sitting at home? Are they having a good time? Are they relaxing while the husband goes to work? No, they're not. 343 million women are actually working, but in the unorganized sector, significant one of them. So I think the first and important thing is that we do not recognize and acknowledge the care economy, the work that women do at home, and therefore we've created these numbers which say 18% of GDP comes from women. What if you just quantified that and said if they had a nanny, what would they pay? And if they had a cook, what would they pay? So that's point number one. The second thing is that it is clearly identified that if these women had equal opportunity, equal pay, and an equal ability, the contribution to GDP would be over 770 billion. So there's a big enough reason for us to be sitting in this room, to be on this channel, to say we have to do more, even though your panelists were wondering why we're in this room and not in that room, Shireen. So let me be honest with you.
Yeah. Only a scheduling issue, nothing more to it.
Thank you. So, but just coming back to the main point, this is serious. I've sat across the table, kitchen table from housewives who make household snacks, but didn't get a bank loan to take their business over 5 lakhs. Yeah. I've spoken to women, who have done garment businesses and grocery businesses and, so the entrepreneurial spirit, the need to make money, the need to be relevant is all translating now into this. It is this beautiful moment in time when we can take it to the next level. And similar is, the story may be different, but the theme is the same. Yeah. Across women in the workplace, women, in jobs, women in government, women aspiring to be in leadership. So I think the big point is that there's a gap. We need to correct it on multiple levels. The potential is there, the spirit is there, and women who've been given an opportunity have made it happen.
Yes, they have, and I have 3 wonderful women who made it happen quite literally here on this panel. But Sindhu, just to take forward the many numbers that Sangeeta threw our way to bolster the case for why we need more women to participate in the economy in general. Now, I want to understand from you, from the SAP lens, the measures that you've been able to take to ensure that you do actually get closer to parity as far as the workforce is concerned, and from a NASSCOM lens as well. As you look at the tech sector today, we're talking about the disruptions on account of AI, etc. Do you believe that technology is going to be the equalizer, or do you believe technology and the fact that women usually have less access to it will widen the gap?
Yeah, first of all, Shireen, great to be here, and it's absolute privilege to be amongst all of you phenomenal leaders. And to your question on technology and that being an equalizer, I think we are seeing the data points speak for itself, right? If I just look at women in tech today, Shireen, the numbers are already rising, right? Back in 22, we had close to 10.8% of women in the workforce when it comes to technology. And now if I look at the numbers, that's already moving up to close to 15%, right? So there's a significant rise in that. And you might think it's not too much, but it's getting there, right?
But it's a different story at the leadership level.
Yeah, and I'm coming to that. I think on the entry level, we are doing great. Also, India, from a demographic dividend as well, we have 35% of women in tech as of today. And that number is only growing. And also from a STEM numbers, right? Today, India is the largest when it comes to tech graduates, women coming out in STEM. But you're absolutely right. As these numbers go up, as these people move up the ladder, you see that what I call as a drip effect, right? People start dropping off, and women, particularly in their mid-level career points, you see a drop off, and that even more moving forward to the C-suite, you see a significant drop. And the reason being also multifaceted, right? It's not just one size fits all, but it's really about family pressures that come up at that point in time. It's also about an absence of role models to a great extent. It's also many times organizations not having flexible policies, work culture. And lastly, I would also attribute it to women to a certain extent, because there's a lot of self-doubt as well in women, particularly when they reach specific levels, right? And this is also backed up by data.
I call it the perfection penalty.
Yeah, no, and that perfection penalty, it's proven with data, because men tend to apply to roles when they meet like 60% of the criteria, whereas women only apply to roles when they meet 200% of the criteria, right? And LinkedIn behavioral data also states that women tend to kind of not apply to roles and kind of skip out of 20% of the roles just because they don't meet some of the criteria. So a lot of things. And coming to SAP, Shireen, I mean, we also looked at data quite intensely, right? And we also saw that some years back that women, particularly in the midpoint of their careers, were dropping off. And one of the reasons, like I said, was also the young parents, right? They need to take care of their kids, and most of that pressure many times fall on the women. And so what we did is we started our saplings, which is our creche right on our campus, so that young parents could drop off their kids, feel at peace. Nursing mothers always had a chance to visit their babies and take care of them, but still have that everything what they need to thrive in the workplace, right? And this is one of the many things that we did. And today, if you just look at our numbers as well, we are shining through in terms of getting to that 50% target of women in the workforce. That's something that we are very much focused on. Also, if you look at our accelerator programs with startups, it's not just about our own women in our workforce. We're also making sure we have dedicated programs where we bring in women entrepreneurs, give them access to our technology, give them access to leaders whom they can emulate, role model. And we have a very intentional focus on also calling out and talking about women leaders in the organization. Because on one hand, you can have the greatest of policies, but if people don't have role models to look up to, that also has a challenge, right? So quite some things happening to get there, and technology, no doubt, is an equalizer.
Is an equalizer. But, you know, that's such an important point that you made there, Sindhu, about showcasing role models. And, you know, I have the deepest gratitude for Debjani Ghosh, because 15 years ago, we were on a panel together, and Debjani looked at me and she said, you know, when you look for role models in India in the context of women, there's either Mother Teresa or Katrina Kaif. We have nothing in the middle. And that set me on a path to actually find women, showcase women across different sectors, across different industries. And that resulted in our first show called What Women Really Want. And that resulted in our big campaign, Future Female Forward. So Debjani, eternally grateful for you know, really showing us the mirror.
And Shireen, you need a round of applause for doing that.
No. It's really thanks to.
But it also means we've been talking the same thing for 15 years.
Exactly, we have been. But Debjani, as you look at where we are today, I mean, as you pointed out, you know, so much has changed, but yet so little has changed as well. From a point of view of where India finds itself in the world, from a point of view of this backlash globally against now what is being sort of, you know, thrown under the bus as diversity and inclusion, do you worry that there is going to be a further setback to the cause of more women participating in the workforce?
No. And that's completely my personal point of view. But I honestly think diversity and the whole focus on diversity didn't do much for the cause of women. I think if anything, it will start beginning to hurt the cause of women. we were almost being treated as someone who deserves that seat because of our gender and not because of our capabilities. And I've always fought against that. I've always stood against that. I think having a more inclusive charter to say that talent will thrive.
Yeah.
And if you have the talent, you have the capabilities, then we are not going to look at anything else. It's the best thing that can happen for women. Because what I'm convinced about is, given the opportunity to the right quality education, women will thrive. Women have the mindset, they have the hunger, and the hunger is just growing. The next generations don't even need support. They are hungry, they want to make a point.
Yeah.
The hunger is growing. So I think we have to figure out how to move the blinkers, how to move those filters, that legacy, the baggage of legacy that we carry, that mindset of judging someone based on, especially at a leadership level. The reason why we don't have a lot of leaders in leadership positions is because the CEOs are all men, or mostly men, with a few exceptions that we have. And when they want to hire people who are just like them.
Exactly.
So immediately gender filter comes up. So these are real problems that need to be looked at. But I have never been a big fan of the whole diversity agenda. I've been a much bigger fan of inclusion.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'm glad that you point that out. And I think that once you start to create a culture of inclusion, and that includes much more than just gender, it truly talks about diversity in the workforce, you can achieve many of the outcomes that we are discussing. But I want to talk about where India finds...
Just one thing I want to add to that, it should be merit-based inclusion.
Yes, of course. I want to now talk about where India finds itself, and I want to get the women's perspective and the leaders' perspective on this. It's a tumultuous world. It's a volatile world where every minute there's a tweet or there's a comment that is shaking global markets. It's changing business confidence and investor sentiment. Within this milieu, the opportunities that you believe India enjoys, the advantages that India should leverage on. Sangeeta, I want to start by talking to you about that. What do you believe India can do? What do you believe India should do? How should we position ourselves in this global environment?
So I think as an opening, I would say we need to continue on some of the good things we've been doing. On the women agenda, just the phrasing of the terminology of women-led development versus just women development itself was a game changer, because it showcased the ideology that women can lead society.